Do you have someone in mind that you would have, like, off the top of your head, or?
Funny enough, no, but just a better actor. So with the Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back this week with another movie review. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned with the content we produce each and every week in the world of TV and movies. My name is Cameron. Oh, the DCU, our hopes, Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil. I have no people. Corwin.
Oh, that's right. If you haven't guessed it by now, but of course you would have based on the title of this video, we are here to review none other than DC's Supergirl. This is, of course, directed by Craig Gillespie. This is a guy who did I, Tonya, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there was clearly high hopes going into this movie. The question is, did it meet them? So, I mean, let's just go straight into it, man. I mean, give me your thoughts.
No, I had really high hopes. I was really getting excited from just like seeing a Supergirl since the last one, like in the 80s or whatever. I didn't watch too much of the show, but this would have been like the second Supergirl for me in like 40 years or something. So my hopes were high. The trailer looked interesting, but I don't think they pulled it off as much as they should have. It just wasn't enough. I think most of it is just the plot, just a story that we're following. Yeah. Are we doing overall thoughts? Are we doing a specific? Let's do overall.
Yeah, we'll start with overall. Yeah,
What are your overall thoughts?
Disappointed, man. Just disappointed. I mean, look, like, it's been a long road with DC movies. Obviously, we had the Snyderverse and we know how that went. And then obviously, with this new iteration of the DC movie landscape, obviously with the DCU, obviously helmed by James Gunn, we had Superman last year. And I really enjoyed Superman. I thought it was a great start and the start that was needed for a new universe. Obviously, of course, I'm not counting Creature Commandos that came before that. And obviously, then we had Supergirl, and obviously coming up, we've got Lanterns, which looks really good. At least I feel like it looks really good. And then we've got Clayface coming up later on in the year, and that teaser I thought looks really good as well.
Excited for that one.
So am I. But I think the issue is that coming off of Superman, we knew that Supergirl was going to be next. I thought that it was a semi-logical move. I liked the idea of it coming next. It felt different. I felt like, with the DCU, I think you didn't want to go. I don't think you needed to go the route of doing, Superman followed by Batman, followed by Wonder Woman, followed by Flash. We had those characters not long ago, and we had movies of those characters not long ago. So I think to come with Supergirl was a good idea. However, it just doesn't hit. This movie doesn't have any soul to it. It is boring at times. And it's interesting because before I go into more of a deep dive, I've started reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I'm not very far into it whatsoever. However, it's interesting how so far it feels so different, so similar, to the start of the movie, like in terms of, what is it, Ruthie, her dad being killed, obviously, and this is, in the comic, it's a bit different how that setup has happened, but, you meet Kara in a bar celebrating her birthday, and it's kind of the same thing, but I wonder, obviously, and this is someone who hasn't gone through Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but I wonder if this could also be a thing of sometimes the difficulty of a comic book translating to a movie and it working the same way. Obviously, it's too early for me to say, but it felt dry. It felt really dry. And but I mean, what are your more in-depth thoughts?
First of all, if you guys, anyone out there has read the comic to the end, and if you know a little bit more about it, like, is the dog in it? Because I don't think he is.
Crypto is in it. Cool. He is.
But how the story differs, that would be, I think, interesting to know. I have it as well, but I haven't started it yet. So it would be interesting to know, like, if how far they stuck to it. Starting with the dog. I don't know because you said Superman was last year, it's still like fresh in our minds relatively. I don't know if we needed another story about someone trying to rescue a dog, or like a super Kryptonian trying to rescue a dog. I think as much as I like Krypto now, it got a little bit in the way, plot wise, and I would have liked it to be just about the girl trying to seek revenge and Kara trying to like, do I help her? Do I not help her? Do I want to get involved in this? Because I think that would have just streamlined the whole thing a little bit more and like made it about that character arc, I suppose,
Yeah.
where at the end she does help, sort of.
Yeah, because I mean, this story is meant to be a tragedy. Like, I remember when James Gunn announced this movie and he said, he talked about it so eloquently in terms of, the idea of, how this is a tragic story, how Kara is someone where she didn't have the loving upbringing of Clark, and she witnessed the fall and destruction of Krypton and had to live on this floating rock. Watching all the people she knows around her slowly die, and how much of a tragic story that is. And this person, and you also then have what felt exciting at first, the idea of, I think a DC exec make a comment on this a few days ago where he talked about the logic of wanting to do Supergirl next, and part of that logic was we're introducing a new universe, right? So you start with Superman and you introduce us to our Earth and how that looks like in this new version of DC Cinematic Universe. And then you follow up with a space story or a story that expands the universe and shows us other elements of the universe, which I think was a cool opportunity that completely falls flat.
Yes.
Like, this DC universe, or at least the space universe and what's out there, feels very dry. It feels very flat. Weirdly enough, when this movie was being promoted, obviously, I think a lot of people drew comparisons to the James Gunn and his Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt it a bit, yeah.
And I did too. However, visually, I didn't feel it at all. I felt that it was really a missed opportunity to really expand the universe and show how this universe looks and feels beyond Earth. And it felt like a lot of the time, if I'm being honest with you, I felt like I was watching this movie clearly on sets or practical sets, but it felt that way to me. It didn't feel like I was actually being transported to different places, and it actually felt real and full with life, which was really disappointing. And I think as well, the same thing with Kara is that I never fully felt her tragedy. The scenes on Krypton, which I was really looking forward to, first and foremost, still, in my opinion, no one has done Krypton better than Zack Snyder.
No.
Krypton to me did not look interesting in this movie. The inhabitants of
Krypton was barely
there. It felt like I was watching a CW like movie at times, or a CW TV show. And even the backstory of Kara, I would have loved for them to have fleshed out that scene more in terms, or that whole part more in terms of how it was really like with the destruction of Krypton. And, then they introduced this idea of, that where Krypton's core is off the rails, that this is now brought, we have now been exposed to a new poisonous mineral, that being kryptonite. And you don't feel anything in terms of when her parents are dying. And at least I didn't feel anything. It didn't seem interesting.
Heartless.
And I didn't understand what Kara by the end, part of this journey is made to make you feel like, that Kara's the one that's not redeemable, but she wants to try to be. But yet she then, spoiler warning, kills the villain at the end. And, I just didn't get it. Obviously, as well, Lobo, I want to quickly mention on that.
Oh, wait. Can I just jump on some of the points?
Hit me.
There's too many. I did want to mention that that Argo scene. It's not really Krypton scene, I guess, but I really enjoyed that. I really liked the scene and like seeing her grow up on that planet and how carefree she was and and then suddenly this tragedy hits and they're all getting sick and she has to leave the planet because it shows where that character comes from, where the character's pain comes from, but it also shows like why she's different from Clark, why she's so cynical, I think. Because Clark never, he grew up on Earth. Those are his people, because he was a baby when he came to Earth. That's what he grew up around. Whereas Kara has seen that part of Krypton. She grew up with those people for, I think, at least, I want to say 13, 14, 15. How old is she? 20 years?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Bad at guessing ages. But so she's been with those people and she is was old enough to understand what it means to lose them. And I think like that's great. That's a wonderful character introduction and to show us who she is. And I just would have put it like right at the beginning. You said the comic doesn't do that, I guess, but I think if that had been the first introduction to Kara in this film, in her own film, that would have made that whole like transition to now she's going through bars and getting drunk and but kind of throwing her life away, I guess, sometimes, and trying to drink down the pain or whatever. That would have made that part more pitiful, and I would have maybe enjoyed it a little bit more to see that. But to start off with her just already drunk or hungover, it just didn't do anything for me, for the character, and maybe that's why the whole thing kind of suffered.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting you made that point, because like, I guess the whole point is that, yeah, she is throwing her life away. But the point is that by the end of the movie, that she's meant to have found some kind of purpose. And on paper, I guess she has. But I don't think I really necessarily felt that by the time that, you know...
I don't think it's there. I don't think that character arc is there.
No, it's not.
Like, cares about people. I get why she... I guess we're spoiling that. Why she kills the guy. To, like, protect... Ruthie from that same like bitterness, which I really liked as well. I think it was a really good moment for her just to again show that she's different from Clark, but also that she's trying to protect this like still innocent and pure girl from being like her. But yes, that doesn't necessarily lead into going to Metropolis and saying, I'm going to stay a while, stay for a bit. I didn't see that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and speaking of the villain, I mean, Krem is just awful. Like,
really?
There's nothing there with him. Like, there's nothing there with that character. He is bland. You don't know anything about him. You don't know why he does what he does. It felt very CW to me, man. And I do want to link that to Lobo.
Go.
Lobo is a character I think we have wanted to see for a long time. He is a character, well, at least that a lot of comic book fans have wanted to see for a long time, right? And finally, we got him. Jason Momoa. I guess he is a good fit for Lobo, and I did have fun with Lobo. However, once again, I feel like they should have cast someone else. I felt like while Jason Momoa does have some characteristics to Jason Momoa that translates well to that character, I think that Jason Momoa is unfortunately one of those actors that plays Jason Momoa, but a bit too much.
Didn't see that in this one. I think it was a little bit rougher than his recent, like say Minecraft or something. He's gone a bit in the like comedic route recently. I only know him from that and Game of Thrones. Where he was basically just not saying much, the mute brute. But I kind of liked his like rougher performance in this one. Although I don't know anything about Lobo, I don't know what the character was supposed to be, and if that he did him justice. But I didn't mind too much. But can I ask, like, do you have someone in mind that you would have like off the top of your head or?
Funny enough, no, but just a better actor. So that would be ideal. But I'll be honest with you though, Lobo was, even though I'm criticizing, and I know this is going to sound so hypocritical, when Lobo was on screen, and so I do have to give him credit actually, Jason Momoa, even though I would rather him to kind of try to dial up the character a little bit, when he was on screen, I did have fun, and he was fun, and I will definitely give him that. And I do look forward to see him more. And I think he could be great still as another supporting character. I don't want to see him have his own movie. I don't want to see him have his own TV show, but I would be more than interested in seeing him be more of a supporting character, because I feel like he could bring a lot, and I would love to see him have clashes down the line with other people and get more of his backstory. But before I give you my final thoughts, well, in fact, before I ask you a question specifically, do you have any final thoughts on this movie? Because I have a question for you.
So many thoughts. What's my first thought? There was like Corenswet. We haven't talked about the David Corenswet of it all. I really like the scenes with him. I think We have he has some really goodwill from me for what he did in Superman, and just like again the contrast between the two. He was very like a lot goofier, I think, in this maybe, which fit, which really worked. So thanks for showing up. Did you have something on Cohen Sweat or?
That probably links to my question, actually. So I'll let you finish your thoughts first,
Okay.
because that
Oh,
probably
crap.
does link to my question.
I think like as well, like there were some beautiful shots. It was a technically beautiful movie. I love the shot where Kara flies into space, where she, I guess, fails to rescue Crypto the first time. And it's just this silent scream that she does. Here, I'm not sure, that might have been too much, but yeah, I'll take it. But that silent scream was just beautiful, I think. I haven't seen that in any movie before, I think. It was just really well done. And she played it well. And then at the end, like with the fight with the Krem de la Krem, him, like when it slows down, you have a little bit of like short slow-mo shots. Like Zack Snyder, take note, like this is how it's done, because just as it slows down, you get some beautiful like compositions. And it's just, yeah, it's really nicely done actually from the direction. Question.
Well, the question is, I mean, so I saw today it was reported that Supergirl is clocking in at $38 million, $38 million worldwide domestically opening weekend, which is of course lower than what was projected. It was projected to be coming in at 50. And now it's coming at 38, which is obviously not very good whatsoever. But I mean, you mentioned Corin Sweat, right? And I nearly forgot about him, because he is one of these shining lights of this movie. You know, when you watch his scenes, it's like, damn, this guy is Superman. He's just Superman. He is great. And obviously with this movie doing as poorly as it's seemingly going to do, apparently it's a reported $170 million production budget. So obviously that's not including marketing. It's clearly it's not gonna do well, right? It's clearly gonna, to a degree, bomb. But of course, James Gunn is currently filming Man of Tomorrow, which is obviously the Superman sequel, which Supergirl Millie Alcock is actually going to be in as well.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
What's your thoughts like on how this movie ultimately? Do you feel that this movie being received the way it has, and inevitably underperforming the way that it's going to, how do you feel like that affects us in this DCU as we move to Man of Tomorrow or as we progress? Or do you feel like this is something they can easily recover from?
I think it's not good. Let's say that, especially after like it's the second one. It's not a good outcome, I think, for them. But it is Supergirl, so I think, like I said, the projections were a little bit low, anyways. I think they still have Superman in the roster. They still have. Let's see how Clayface does. It's a much lower budget, so and it's horror, so that always does a little bit better, I think, when it comes to money coming back in. They have, Superman and eventually Wonder Woman. I think someone's penning that. I think someone actually. No, I don't know
because
how
she
to
wrote
pronounce
this
her
movie,
name, but
Anna Noguera or something like that.
We should have
She
looked this
definitely
up.
shouldn't write. She definitely shouldn't write Wonder Woman. But
I'm scared now. But I don't know. Maybe she'll do better with that. I don't know. But so they have a few, and like, look, you can't just do 100% all the time. So I don't know if the trust in the DCU was always there, especially after the DCEU was doing, like, just botched it all. They probably want some back with Superman, but I don't know. Like, it more depends, I guess, on the films that are coming out, and let's see how they're doing. But I wouldn't just, write it off just because this one isn't doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what it is? I don't disagree. I think that the DCU has a couple things going for it right now, but also a couple things that could go against it. The first is the fact that Man of Tomorrow comes out next year. That helps, because I think if there was a longer gap or if there was another movie in between, or there was another bigger movie, quote unquote, in between that potentially didn't do well, or that could make it worse. I think the fact that Superman was well received and Man of Tomorrow is coming out next year, that helps a ton. Obviously, I think the in between stuff to a degree count. How well will Lanterns do? Will it be a success? Will Clayface be a success? Obviously, they're interesting projects. I think they have an interesting slate, I think, in general, with the movies they've got coming out. But I think Man of Tomorrow has to hit. If Man of Tomorrow isn't good, or it isn't received well, or it doesn't do as well as the first Superman movie, which it probably needs to do better, but if it doesn't, I think then there's a potential concern, right?
Maybe then. Maybe you
However,
can
I
start
think
worrying then.
right. I mean, also as well, you do obviously have Matt Reeves, the Batman, coming out next year as well, which is after Man of
Although
Tomorrow. But
it's slightly different, I think.
yeah,
Wouldn't
I
count
mean,
that. Like if the Batman 2 does well, it doesn't reflect too much on the DCU,
no, but I
and vice
think
versa
that
as well. I think.
right, but I think that the Batman 2 being good helps the overall image of DC to a degree. Because obviously we're
Yeah.
still in the early stages of this universe. And so I think people a lot of the time they're looking just at the brand in general. Obviously the DCU, however, is the main thing. But I hope that this is just a small dip and glitch in the road, and it needs to
Yes.
be, because and I think I'll now be intrigued to find out what is beyond next year, because I think that will help a ton as well in terms of giving us an idea. I think that you should probably try to get that DCU Batman movie out, I think, a bit sooner rather than later. I think it's going to be important with how you follow up with Man of Tomorrow, but I have high hopes. I have high hopes, at least for Man of Tomorrow. And high hopes as well to see Millie Alcock back as Supergirl, because I did like
Yes.
her performance. And I
Yeah,
think
she
that
was
she
really
will
good.
probably work really well as a supporting character in Man of Tomorrow. So that may help her as well. Yeah. But I mean, shall we go to our Icee review scores to give our
We
Icee review
shall.
score out of 10? So hit me. How many Icees out of 10 will you give to Supergirl?
So I would give it a 6 Ices out of 10, which is a little bit more generous, I think, but it's not a completely bad film. There were some really nice moments, some really nice acting. I actually liked Matthias Schoenaerts as the villain, even though he didn't have much to do. I liked what he did with that little. He really enjoyed himself, and I enjoyed watching him enjoy himself. It's all that. But yeah, it's just the plot, I think, which the script wasn't as strong. But I still like wouldn't put it in some of Snyder's worst stuff. It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna go with 5.5 ICs out of 10. I'm trying to be a bit more generous as well. I don't think this movie is terrible. It's not great. I don't think it's good, and I don't think it's bad. It's very much so in the middle.
Mid.
It's very mid. I would put this in a similar category, maybe to a Black Widow, for example, for me.
Okay.
In terms of a movie I'll probably never watch again. However, the bits that work, and I would like to see those bit parts that work moving forward. That being Millie Alcock as Supergirl. I'm open to seeing obviously more Jason Momoa as Lobo, and of course more Superman. And so I think that is the important thing, and that moving through and carrying on through will be helpful. So I'm going to go with 5.5 ICs out of 10. And that will do it for our review of Supergirl. We are No Drama, Just Movies. Once again, please like, share, comment, drop down in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on Supergirl. If you've read Women of Tomorrow, let us know what your thoughts were in comparison. And let us know what your thoughts are on the future of the DCU. If you think that this opening weekend is a sign of things to come, or if you feel like this is just a blip in the road they're going to be able to overcome. Once again, my name is Cameron. Oh, the DCU. The hopes we had, Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
So long. I'm Phil. I have no people. Corwin.
Oh, that's right. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies. Thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.